we'll write down that one.
Yeah, it's just like, he's gonna get it the second he could, yeah, 16 right now, and he's still, he's ready to go.
Next match I'll be seeing John.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, should have been, with soccer, right? Yeah, absolutely. His reputation. Yeah, he's done. He picks and chooses which one he wants to do, that way he's not having to. He just let it. Gotcha, okay.
Yeah, so now they, these two guys.
Yeah, he did. I've known him for years, so we know since. I remember him and John and then his friend Ryan, when they lived out there, they didn't really have a subdivision to it for the kids to trade.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, John. That was the worst response I've ever heard, ever.
Thanks a lot.
With the exception of yours. All right, so one of our guests just went around the corner, so we'll hold off before we do too much, but welcome. We have a lot of things on our plate. There are a lot of new faces at the table. So what I want to do is take a moment and go around and make sure that even some of us have been around for a while, we're pretty body, everyone well. So for those who are new, those who are visiting, as well as those who've been around, want to make sure we go around and make sure we know who is here. I am talking slowly so that one of our special guests can be back before we start that.
We can start by having everybody introduce themselves and I can come on.
All right, so yeah, this will act as your attendance sheet as well as getting to know one another. So we will start this corner over here. How about that?
Hi, my name is Clay Stein. I'm the compliance officer here for Area 7.
He's one of us.
Yeah.
Scott Francis, Integrated Technology Group.
Tim Saunders, I am staff to the board and I'm your business engagement and outreach coordinator.
Hi, I'm Alec Brebner, Executive Director with the Central Virginia Planning District Commission.
I'm Sandy Dobbins. I'm the finance director for the CVTUC.
Keith Cook, Virginia Career Works.
Jeff Spaeth, I'm the president at Airfin.
John Hinkle, Chairman of the Clio Board and Chairman of the Atlantis County Board of Supervisors.
Tori Go Martin, Director of Talent and Workforce Development for the Lynchburg Regional Business Alliance.
Kiara Phillips, HR with Southern Air.
Matt Marshall, BWF Technologies.
Tracy Guido, executive director.
Sherry Fulcher, Virginia Works, Registered Apprenticeship.
John Hardy, I'm a Clio for Campbell County, as well as the principal of the Campbell County Technical Center.
And what is a Clio for those that are new?
Chief locally elected official.
Thank you, Tim.
That's in your early.
That's it.
Sharon Dunham with Virginia Works. I'm the office manager for the one stop here in Lynchburg.
Amanda Summers with Virginia Works and I work with the Trade Act program.
Laura Hamilton, and I'm executive director of Lynchburg Beacon of Hope.
Deidre McQueen, deputy director with Beacon of Hope.
John Redding, Appomattox Community. And John Capps with Central Virginia Community College.
Jason Shockley, I'm Vice President at Industrial Plating Corporation.
David Sage, Virginia Technical Institute.
Christian Wiskovich, Manager at Virginia Outdoors.
I'm Karen Walker, Executive Vice President with Foster Fuels.
And then online we have.
Tim, you could call them out.
Sure. Lauren, can you hear us? If you can introduce yourself.
Lauren can't speak, but she can hear.
Oh, okay. So Lauren Anderson is on here and she, I believe, represents the Lynchburg Regional Society of Human Resource Managers. Sure. And then Dana.
Yes, Dana Hogan. I'm the HR manager at Fleet Laboratories.
Hi, Alicia Metter. I am the Economic Development Manager for the City of Lynchburg.
Gary.
Gary Campbell, CEO, Johnson Health Center.
And Carrie.
Hey, Gary and Carrie sounded just alike. I'm
Oh,
Carrie.
sorry.
I'm from Centra. I'm at Bedford, the chief nurse.
And Drew Wade. Drew may not be able to hear us, but he is the Amherst County representative on our Chief Local Elected Officials Council.
So it's tremendous that we have three of our chief local elected officials, being John Hinkle, John Hardy, and Drew Wade, involved in our meeting. And if you, just as a quick overview, because everybody comes into the board from different times, the chief local elected officials are the ones that decide who gets on our board. So for example, Jeff, you're going to be new to our board. We're going to present your information for them to approve in June, and I need to set that date, John and everybody.
Okay.
But I think it's going to be, third week or something like that in June. And, what was I saying now? I forgot. Oh, they approved the board members and our budget and any big policies and contracts that we have. And then the board does that as well, but with the blessing of our chief local elected officials, which gives us the regional direction. Okay.
And it's great to have them because, a lot of times when we have to make a presentation to them, it's a whole lot easier if they've been at the table all along. So with a couple folks who have just joined us, you want to introduce yourself very quickly?
I'm Brian Little. I am from Old Dominion Job Corps Center, the campus director.
Great, thank you. And as you find your seat.
Yep, Mike Hertzler with Freedom Empowered.
Great. So in this huge crowd, so thank you all very much. Angela, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Angela Kelly Wiesek. I'm the Chief Deputy Director for Virginia Works, the Commonwealth's brand new agency for workforce development and advancement. And just grateful to be here today and to have been given just a couple of brief minutes on your agenda. So look forward to sharing with you some exciting work that we're doing. Thank you.
So on that note, we do actually have Angela and Sherry who are both here to share some information. So look forward to them speaking to us in just a moment, but let's get right into the agenda. So we've had Dr. Capstone with the side-eye you again.
Laura Hamilton is going to, Laura, would you like to make an announcement of any sort or like,
Well,
introduce?
yes, I think the leader is going to be working on the First Virginia Career Works side for the future. So we're really excited.
Welcome.
Yeah.
So we hope to see you again. Yay. All right, thank you.
So with that, was there any public comment?
We don't have any public comment. No.
Okay, thank you very much. You received the minutes of the last meeting for January 9th. Any additions, changes, corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion to accept. John Caps.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
And Dave, any additional discussion? Hearing none, ready to vote, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? Thank you, Gary. Anyone against? Nay. Ayes have it. And so approved. So, we have special guests. Do you want to introduce them officially?
Yeah, I'll just say this. Angela introduced herself, but she has a great background of local government. You'll appreciate she was on the Board of Supervisors for over a decade with Hanover County. And she also has a background before that in public relations, corporate communications, so she understands business and what your needs are. And she is the Chief Deputy Director for Virginia Works, which I've spoken about what the governor has done with the Secretary of Labor and what they have done with kind of reorganizing a piece of this whole workforce system. And she's going to explain some of that shortly. And then Sherry is our esteemed registered apprenticeship consultant and one of, I think, the best consultant in the state. And not only I say that, but all the regions know that she is. I talk about it all the time, but.
Stop it, Tracy, stop it.
So that she is good is that businesses they get confused when they get so many people coming at them. She is good in the way that if she knows that the business might be able to benefit from our WIOA, Workforce Innovation Act, Title I services, she will invite Tim and I to come and meet with the business, and we'll get Keith involved in all of that together as one team. And we do the same for her. So that's what I mean by that. And with that, Angela, my board knows just a little bit about this whole reorganized thing because the workforce boards are kind of separate from the former Virginia Employment Commission that came in and the secretary putting the apprenticeship program in with this new department. And then also the people that audit our Title I services, they used to be with the community college system, have now come into this department. So she's going to explain why they did that and how this changes things. Thank you.
Would you all mind if I stood up and kind of stood closer?
That would be great. Yeah, thank you.
I just feel like I can see everybody that way and also speak a little more to the PowerPoint presentation. So again, good afternoon, and thank you so much for letting me be here with you today. And I'll talk fast because I know you have an ambitious agenda. And again, having spent 12 years in local government and attended every single meeting, that I did during that time, I know that we need to be efficient and respectful of everyone's time. So if I do go too fast and you have a question, I've allowed some time at the end, but please do feel free to stop me if something sparks your interest. So again, what is Virginia Works? Virginia Works, again, the new state agency for workforce development and advancement. So if you think of it as what we all used to think of as the VEC, was dealing with unemployment and trying to get people back to work in conjunction with our local workforce boards, we have now said, no, we're going to create a state agency that looks at all of the programs throughout the Commonwealth and the state, all the various secretariats and departments and divisions. And we're going to pull that together and try to better align that to really look at the needs of business and industry in the Commonwealth, and of course, the needs of our job seekers, so our customers twofold. And I'll go into a little bit of that more in the presentation. So some of you may know Carrie Ross. She actually was the commissioner of the Virginia Employment Commission prior to the governor appointing her to head this new agency. I actually had worked with Carrie when she was over, we were on the Sports Backers Board together, and she was head of Activation Capital. She has a background in working with emerging technology companies, and so, and has her own small consultancy at one point as well. We've also been joined by someone who is no stranger to this region, former Delegate Kathy Byron, who not only brings just decades of public service experience, but also focused quite a bit on workforce legislation during her time in the General Assembly. And Kathy is going to be heading up our external affairs, again, going out, speaking with our businesses, our associations, chambers of commerce, to really get that feedback and bring it back to us so we make sure that we, as we are aligning our programs, that we are being responsive, again, to those needs. So again, this effort started in early 2022, trying to look at reimagining, okay, everybody's looking at workforce, everybody knows the importance of workforce. How do we really make this effective in Virginia? And again, we identified, at least just initially, 60 programs. We've since found 75 more. I'm sorry, 15 more to bring us to 75. And that was spread across 9 secretariats and 13 different agencies. And we thought, okay, we can do better. So we started with our planning. We worked together to make our case for change. And then in July of 2023, our new agency came into effect with our enabling legislation. So what have we been doing since then? We've been standing up what initially was DWDA, Department of Workforce Development and Advancement, now Virginia Works. And the three of us came on to bring together our the programs and the departments that we felt would be the best fit to move over first. Just a quick visual of what we call the ecosystem. Of course, we've got our workforce service providers, looking at identifying the skills that our residents have and what they need to really be successful, who needs to be upskilled, what do those programs look like. We have, of course, Virginia Works, looking at that ecosystem, convening it, and then, of course, looking at the needs of businesses and employers. And so what our goal is as all of these circles overlap, we want to increase this portion here where it all comes together, and eventually we want that to be much broader. So just a quick snapshot as of, I guess the end of 2023, about 4.5 million employed Virginians, up a little, almost 250,000 since the governor took office in January of 2022. We have a roughly 66.6, 66.9 labor force participation rate, which is actually one of the highest in the nation. I think we're number 5, maybe. And if that sounds low to you because we only have a 3% employment rate, just remember that that what we are looking at there are the number of non-institutionalized residents who are of working age. So if you are a stay-at-home mom, if you are somebody who is retired early, if you are just fortunate to be among the very wealthy who doesn't need to be working, you are not counted in, you are counted, but you are not in the labor force. Of course, with all of this, we still have, as of the end of last year, 275,000 job openings. What does that mean? That means that we really do need to think very strategically about the sources that we should pull from in order to provide our businesses with a qualified and skilled workforce. And so that's a lot of non-traditional areas. We've been working in some of them with, for example, our disability population. We're looking very closely. The governor has a real passion for reentering citizens, returning citizens, those who are coming out of incarceration. Of course, most of us know somebody in our social circle or family who is in the recovery space. So we want to be thinking about that. There's just any number of those special categories where there's a lot of opportunity for us to improve.
Sorry, I was
That's okay. So what's our vision? Well, certainly we want to be nation leading, right? We want our workforce ecosystem. We wanted to equip Virginians with the skills they need. And we want to make sure that our employers have the ability to attract and grow and retain those workers. We know that a thriving Commonwealth, that's what it's going to take. So we want to focus our efforts on coordination, enhancement, and the future readiness of all of our workforce programs and serve those stakeholders across the government and the broader ecosystem. And of course, our mission, we are mission driven, is to create, sustain, and retain a viable workforce. We want to support current and future business and industry while recognizing our unique regional needs. Obviously, what happens in Central Virginia is going to be different than what happens in Hampton Roads. It's going to be different than what happens out in the Valley, or even in Northern Virginia or Central Virginia. So I, at the risk of dating myself, back when I was in business school, we did our SWOT analysis, right? Our strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities, our threats. We want to consider all of those and think about how we make that work regionally. And we do that through public-private partnerships and, of course, data and infrastructure and investment. This is a data-driven, a metrics-driven administration, and that effort is really seen here in looking at what do we know. Let's bring some transparency to what's working, and let's scale that, right? And, of course, accountability. So, all right, so the agency stand-up. So I don't expect you all to be able to read all this tiny print. Actually, this might be the first time I've actually been able to read the print on this slide, but this is the list of those 60 programs to give you a feel for all the efforts that are going on in workforce. And these are the programs we found. We asked all of them to provide us with some baseline metrics. There are 6 key metrics. And it's not because we're trying to compare one to another. We want to try to give everybody, okay, here's your baseline. Let's see what we can do to help you improve on those. And let's figure out what's working and let's invest more there. So I just put that up there for you to help you understand the scale of what's happening. So what are we doing? This may say organizational design, but we really encourage people to think of this more as a programmatic alignment, right? That's why you only see a couple of names on the chart. So again, our director, Carrie Roth, reports to Secretary of Labor, Brian Slater. Many of the programs over here you will recognize. We talked a little bit about registered apprenticeship here, Sherry. They will eventually have, they came over from the Department of Labor and Industry. They will eventually have a sister department, if you will, that will focus on internships, work-based learning, and on-the-job training. Because while registered apprenticeship is so very powerful and life-changing, there are some opportunities that don't fit into the registered apprenticeship box. And we want to allow for that. We want to be responsive to our businesses. Likewise, economics, information, and analytics. They are the arm that works with the Bureau of Labor Statistics at the federal level. And so they're already looking at that data piece. They were another one of the first departments to transfer over into our agency. We'll also be creating a sister department for them on research, metrics, measures, and evaluations. Again, we will be adding a more robust communication, policy, and legislative affairs effort eventually. And then some of these programs over here, you may recognize more. For example, we have Amanda here from our for our trade adjustment, assistance program. We owe a Title I, Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, a Title I. The Work Opportunity Tax Credit for those businesses that hire in people with special need, special barriers. And of course, foreign labor certification. We also then have our workforce operations, again, partnering with our local workforce development boards to provide through the various programs, the Jobs for Veterans State Grant, the RESEA program, which is, there's the acronym, Sharon, we were looking for it earlier, Reemployment Services and Eligibility Assessment. Anyway, so that's kind of the program alignment. We will have a particular department that will look at the monitoring, also the grants and resource management. So we talked a little bit about how some of our folks from the who were formerly working through the community college system will be moving over into the grants and monitoring department here as we create that. We'll have information technology and security, of course. What is helpful for everybody to understand is, again, think of it as we have VEC and we have now Virginia Works. They do unemployment, we do employment. We will have a shared services model for all the money, right? So anything that has to do with money, procurement, general services, HR, those finance services, accounting, and so forth. So there'll be a shared services model, and that's why there's a dotted line there. You will also see the dotted line there for the Virginia Board of Workforce Development, which is, of course, the portion of this that you report up through. Many of you may have heard that Anthony Reedy is the new executive director of the Virginia Workforce Development Board. We're very excited. While Anthony sits literally across the hall from me, he does not report to Carrie, he reports directly to the secretary. But we see this as really a great way for us to be melding together the options for all of our job seekers and, quite frankly, our businesses. We had a great conversation this morning about how if somebody walks into one of our centers, they really shouldn't be able to tell who's writing that paycheck. Is it, is it the Tracy's Group? Is it Virginia Works? Is it who they're paid for? Should not matter. There should be no wrong doors. You should be able to come in and have the full complement of services available to you, and it should be easy. It should be easy and accessible. So again, we did some phases. We are currently in phase 2 and 3. We've got a couple of things that we're still working on at the moment. Just looking at those change management activities. Some of the things when we came in, I heard a lot of, oh, well, we do this, we have to. Why? And those answers were always, well, we were told we had to. We start digging into it. It might have been personal preference. So let's find out, what do we really have to do? What are we required? Better yet, again, what's working? So one of the things we did with registered apprenticeship, for example, is we stopped doing a lot of snail mail, right? Still probably doing some of it. Sherry probably will do. But it was taking 2 to 3 weeks to get paperwork from some of our field consultants into the headquarters and then back again in via snail mail. So what did we do? We said, no, scan that stuff, encrypt it, email it. We cut our processing time by 96%. We looked at all of the 4 reporting mechanisms that our field consultants were doing. And we figured out we could save them 38% of their reporting time by eliminating 2 duplicative processes that we could just say we saved over 1 whole full FTE. Now that's very small in the vast ocean of government, but it's the effort that we are putting in to find those opportunities, and that's the change management that we are looking for. All right. I know that was a lot of information delivered pretty quickly. Does anybody have questions on what I might answer for you? I saw some nods. I saw some glaze. Some laughs. That's always good.
So how are you guys interfacing with the VDOE and programs for kids who are still in high school?
I'm sorry, say that again.
How are you all interfacing with the VDOE?
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, so we actually have a number of interface points with the VDOE. So we actually have a new assistant director of apprenticeship. Donna Carvana, who is sitting on the board for, I think they call it VACTI, where it is the group where all of the CTE directors get together and are looking at that. We just actually wrote away for the new SAFE grant. It stands for State Apprenticeship Expansion Fund. There was a formula portion of that where we just had to apply and the feds will give it to us. And then there was a competitive portion and we wrote a grant. Actually, I lie. The VDOE wrote it for us, but we had to apply. So the VDOE wrote away. We gave them permission to write for the entire $6 million to try to create a teacher pipeline to help with the teacher crisis. So not just converting paraprofessionals to teachers, but helping convert some people who are not currently in education into paraprofessionals so that we can look to that pipeline. And of course, you know, YRA, Youth Registered Apprenticeship, is a huge effort for us right now. And Sherry is knocking it out of the park with that. She is our subject matter expert for all of our registered apprenticeship consultants to come and help them create opportunities, again, to work with our schools and our businesses to answer their questions and help them appreciate the fullness and the opportunity for all of our students, in wherever you may be found, whether it's in a suburb or an inner city or a rural locality in Virginia, you know, YRA gives you great opportunities for success. So thank you.
And I'd like to add too, that not only the registered apprentice, but we can co-enroll because we can also now do on-the-job training for high school students. So our clients in the Title I that have a little bit of barrier to employment or don't have that great family background for the next step after they get out of high school, while they're still in school, we can help match them with a company that is willing to work with them and help develop their skills through a work experience or what we call on-the-job training, where they actually hire that high school student in their senior year or something like that, and give them those skills, and then they can decide if they want to continue that well, they're hired, so they have a relationship with that student, but we can reimburse that company for part of those salaries.
And, you know, I make the case, especially for our local elected officials who are here today. Again, I feel your pain. I did it for 12 years. We know that having that robust program that we can talk about really does add to our ability to attract businesses to the region, right? To whatever your locality is. If you can, you know, roll that out there as this is what we are doing to prepare the workforce that you might need, that's a great opportunity and selling point for the locality. All right, I heard my alarm, so I'm going to stop talking unless there's another question that someone might have. Okay, great. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Sherry because she's really going to talk with you about youth registered apprenticeship and the fantastic opportunities, again, that those will bring. I'm here in the interest of your state being responsible with your state tax dollars. They haven't even given me business cards yet, but I have a doc card that I'm happy to scan on your phone, and then you can call me or reach out to me with any questions that you might have. All right. Thank you.
So guys, I'm Sherry Coulter. I'm with Virginia Works Division of Registered Apprenticeship, and I work closely with Angela. Actually, I work closely with a lot of you guys in this room. I know a lot of you know me, and if you don't know me, I have business cards. Just saying. But just want to talk to you guys a little bit about registered apprenticeship and what that looks like and how it can benefit businesses as well as individuals. Tim, if you want to go to the next slide. So first of all, what does registered apprenticeship look like? What is it? So basically the definition of registered apprenticeship is it's a structured training program that combines supervised on-the-job training with occupation-specific related technical instruction, which is a fancy way of saying classroom instruction that's going to reinforce what your apprentices are learning on the job. Programs are designed to help individuals develop a career pathway, gain industry standard skills, and earn a nationally and industry recognized credential. I have another definition for it. Simply put, it is an investment in people. You can't go wrong there. So Tim, if you want to go to the next slide. Youth registered apprenticeship is actually something that I am personally very passionate about. Youth apprenticeship is very similar to the adult program, but it is for students that are still in high school between the ages of 16 and 18 years old. They're participating in a career and technical education or CTE course that aligns with their chosen occupation. So, for instance, if a student is taking an electrical course in school, they can actually go work and become an apprentice for an electrician. The great thing about that is while they're in high school, they're actually working towards a career pathway and potential licensure. So if a student starts their program at 16 years old, ultimately they could have their electrician's license by the time they're 20. The next slide. Just some of my long-term sponsors in the area, Southern Air, and they are the only one in the list that is youth registered apprenticeship approved. So, as of last year, Southern Air decided to start hiring high school students, and they're doing this statewide. And so far, it's working out really well, unless the area hasn't told me that it's not.
Super easy. Sherry makes it super easy.
So Sierra, where you already had a registered apprenticeship program that you did yourself, but then when she came around, you decided to get on with the registered apprenticeship program?
So basically, honestly, we were already doing it. We just, because we were hiring youth, but we weren't registering them, so it wasn't getting them credit. So last year, thankfully, Sherry introduced us. You're already doing this. Why not just go ahead and make it official? And I think we have about 14 youth right now that are working for us.
That's great. That's great. And I guess from our perspective, we could, like, if it's a smaller company, the Southern Air can afford to, I guess, pay them $15 an hour or whatever. But if it's a smaller type of company, they could start a registered apprenticeship program. And for those eligible students, I think they could enroll with us if they're eligible. And then the company could get reimbursed, and it could help these smaller companies, to retain them in our region by helping with these things.
So Southern Air, they've had their program for quite some time. Moore's Electrical and Mechanical and Alta Vista, US Pipe, Town of Bedford, BWX Technologies, Wooldridge Heating and Air, Flowserve, Georgia Pacific and Big Island, and Greif Packaging. And we'll move to the next slide. Now, these are new programs since last year. Now, keep in mind, I'm still relatively new in the apprenticeship world. So, actually, it's this month makes a year that I've been outside. It's only been a year. I've been with the agency a year and a half. So
She's done all of that in 1 year, guys.
Well, that's just, plus I've got like a 25 county territory.
That's
So there's others.
amazing.
But these are new programs that have come on, actually up until Southern Air did their youth registered apprenticeship program, there were no youth programs in Lynchburg.
That is amazing that you got that.
So I did highlight who has youth programs. Actually, Aerofin brought theirs on last year. Their very first youth apprentice was a 17-year-old female welder.
Yeah.
Which I thought was very cool.
And she was part of our program too. I think we had co-enrolled them. So yeah.
We have Affordable Energy Concepts, Amherst Lawn and Garden Equipment, Appomattox Auto Works, Bulldogs Restaurant, Craddock Terry Hotel, Faith Plumbing, Freedom Heating and Air, Hickey Plumbing, Air and Electrical, JB Moore Electrical Contractors, Jet Diesel Performance, Madison Heights Eye Care, Mayberry Diner, Mayberry Pizzeria and Ice Cream, Overview Electric Company, Thompson Trucking, Town of Bedford Police Department, and Wicked Diesel. As far as programs go, a lot of businesses have asked me, hey, can I really do an apprenticeship program in my business? There are over 1,200 occupations that are apprenticeable. Virginia's only using a little over 400 of those. So there's a lot of opportunity to grow and expand programs. And as time goes on, and I think you've all realized, the unicorn employee that used to be able to go and just hire anytime doesn't exist anymore. Especially after COVID, so many people exited the workforce and we got hyper-focused on college. And before anybody says anything, I am not anti-college at all. But I am anti-college when people are going just because that's what their parents told them to do. I think it is a huge disservice to our young people to start their lives in debt like that when their degree's not getting them any better jobs than someone that they went to high school with. And of course, if you have a reason for going, absolutely go to college. But you know what you can do while you're in college? You can also participate in registered apprenticeship. You can never have too many skills. You can always have something to fall back on. So the major components of registered apprenticeship is, of course, supervised, skilled, supervised on-the-job training under the mentorship of a skilled worker. Programs do vary in length dependent upon the occupation. Programs vary in length between 1 to 6 years. The average length of a program is 4 years. The mentor to apprentice ratio is typically 1 to 1. Learning occupation-specific skill, I can't talk. Learn occupation-specific skills through hands-on experience, employer/occupation-specific training, and you earn while you learn. And you're also paid on a progressive wage scale, which means as you learn more and you become more of a benefit to your employer, you're rewarded. You actually earn little increases in pay throughout your apprenticeship. Related technical instruction, which are the classes that an apprentice would take to reinforce their on-the-job training. They are occupation specific, so they have to be directly related to the occupation of choice. It does reinforce what they're learning on the job. Classes are typically industry standard and they can be received at a community college, online, technical center. And some employers actually even do their own program. There for the longest time, Southern Air had their own program that they operated for quite some time and just recently started utilizing CVCC for some of their related instruction. Some of the benefits for businesses. The programs are custom built. So I don't want anyone in this room to think that we come in and dictate and tell you how to run your program. We don't. We work with you, find out what your business needs are and work with you to build a program that's going to address what you need to happen in your business. Once we've helped you set up your program, we fall back into more of a support type role. So we're not telling you how to run your program. You know what you need best for your business. Some of the other benefits are enhanced recruitment. If you put it out there and you let it be known that you have a registered apprenticeship program, it does tend to make you an employer of choice. A lot of people are intimidated to apply for certain jobs because they're still in the mindset that they have to be fully skilled in order to work for your company. And that's not always the case. A lot of businesses now are willing to train from the ground up. And some businesses even see that as a huge benefit. If you hire someone my age, we're stuck in our ways. We're not going to want to change. We don't want to listen to what you have to say. Training someone from the ground up is not a bad thing. You can train them specific to what you need to happen under the roof of your business. It does produce a skilled workforce, which is something that we've lost quite a bit of. With getting hyper fixated on college, we totally forgot about a lot of these occupations. For instance, if any of you guys had to have your heat pump fixed lately, I did. The last ice storm we got, my heat pump decided to stop working, which was not the most opportune time for it to happen. I had to wait because they were so backlogged. I was cold, I had to wait, and there was nobody to fix my heat pump for a week. So that wasn't fun. Not to mention, it affects all of us. So increased wait times and the bottom line, when you pull out your wallet, it affects every single one of us. I was completely blown away when I registered a company in Covington just a few months ago. If you have an emergency plumbing call in Covington, $500 an hour is what plumbers are getting in Covington right now. So when I say it rolls downhill, it most certainly does.
That's not in New York City, that's
here. Mm-hmm. Increased employee retention. And this goes back to what I was saying about an investment in people. When you invest in your employees, they are more likely to stay with you. I have employers ask me all the time, why do I want to help my employees build their resume? Why do I want to help them build their portfolio? Because those are the employees that stay. I always compare this to a marriage. I don't think anybody in this room would stay in a marriage that, you know, maybe your spouse is paying the bills and they're providing the food and keeping the roof over your head and whatnot, but they pay no attention to you otherwise. Nobody would stay in that kind of relationship. Same thing goes with employment. You can provide a paycheck all day long, but if you're not doing something beyond that, they can leave and go down to the business down the street that pays $1 more an hour to get another paycheck. Increased return on investment. Typically apprentices, because number one, they are highly trained. It's very structured on the job training. They tend to be safer in the workplace, higher morale. And just the fact that they stay with you longer, you don't have the constant turnover in the revolving door at your business. When you hire someone and you put them through the background check and the drug screens and all the things through HR and all the onboarding, it's expensive. So it's, it falls back to the old adage, it's cheaper to keep them. If you can get someone to stay with your business, it definitely is a money saver. Best of all, our services are free. We don't charge anything to help you set up your program. We work with you from beginning to end, until your program is up and functional and running. And then if you have questions, need help with anything, all you have to do is let us know. Benefits for apprentices. It is a career pathway. And this is why I'm very passionate about the youth registered apprenticeship side of things. For your students that either just decided they don't want to go to college, it's not their pathway, or for your students that for whatever reason they can't go, there's some type of obstacle there. What typically happens to these students when they graduate high school if they're not going to college and they have no other alternatives? These are the students that end up in fast food, retail, and once they get stuck in there, that's where they're stuck. Because the only thing they're adding to their resume is just experience like fast food and retail, things of that nature. So even if they decide to try to pursue their dream career later on, they don't have the resume to back it up. So with registered apprenticeship, it gives them the ability to start that career pathway while they're in high school. It gives them the ability to start building that relationship with that employer. And so when they turn 18 and they're ready to graduate, they're already working. Some of these students have already got 2 years down with their employer and some are working towards licensure. Industry standard training. So you guys are providing the majority of the training. You're doing all the hands-on. So they're learning specific to what you need in your business. And it is a real job. When students go to college, they're paying that college a lot of money to learn a skill, to have a career, right? This is a little bit different. They're still receiving training to have a pathway to a career, but the employer is paying them to learn the skill. So it's earn while you learn. Skills are developed for high wage and in-demand occupations. They're working towards earning a portable, nationally and industry recognized journey workers credential and pathway to licensure in some of the occupations such as HVAC technician, electrician, plumber, cosmetologist. And this is what your certificate of completion looks like. And we don't just talk the talk, we walk the walk. I can actually show everybody a picture on my phone. I have my journey workers credential as well as a certificate that looks very similar to that that's framed and hanging up in my house. So we all go through it too. Even the folks that are fixing the roads, VDOT, they have a registered apprenticeship program. Town of Bedford, they're even apprenticing their police officers now. And this is just a list of some of the more in-demand careers. A lot of these careers are high wage and even in apprenticeship stages with very little or maybe even no skill. Some of the wages for these jobs start off relatively high. These are jobs that require a high level of skill. These aren't jobs that just anyone can get. It takes a lot of training and a lot of time. So that's why they typically pay well and are in high demand. Partnerships. And a lot of you guys are in this room right now. And I just want to say, well, I've got a lot of you here. Thank you for all that you do for the program because you guys add something to what we do. And whether you realize it or not, everybody has a bad day once in a while, but you make a difference. You get up every day and you make a difference. You can absolutely change a life. So for those of you that are in the room right now, I appreciate you so much. And if you want to learn more, there's all my information. And I also, as I stated before, have business cards. So please stop by and pick one up. And at this point, does anybody have any questions about the program?
Sherry, is there one particular job that's not up there?
Oh, gosh, there are a lot of jobs that are out there.
That's what you, because I put her on a course of checking on sports officials. And found that there is none.
There is, and I'm telling you, I searched through every trying to find something that would align and nothing.
And so the fact that I haven't bothered you lately doesn't mean it's gone away. It just means I haven't bothered you lately. So I just let you know that.
So when I said there were 1,200 occupations, Nat came up with one that's not on the list. So,
But the reason it wasn't on the list is that there's not necessarily one employer tied to a wrapping.
but that's not to say that it can't ever happen. Actually, Carrie White with Centra, who's on the call today virtually, she's been a huge advocate and big partner. And I was a little, I guess, gung ho thinking that we could get it done. And I'm still hoping that we can, but we are trying to get LPN and RN approved in Virginia right now. because we took such a hit in healthcare, and Centra has been top notch as far as back in that effort. So,
Carrie, can you hear us?
I can, yes.
Do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, so I was just, I would love to applaud Sherry for the work that she does. And, we're really close for our HVAC, plumbing, and different programs in that area at Centra for pulling on some, apprentices here at Centra in Bedford, which is where I'm placed now. So we're really excited about that. I think really the last piece of that is looking at the compensation, because we want to have a model that keeps those caregivers engaged. So we want to make sure we have a model where each level of the apprenticeship that they get to, they can get, a bump in pay to keep them engaged and work into that goal. So we're really excited for that. As far as the nursing apprenticeship, it was really like top of mind when I was in that nursing business strategist role. Connecting with Tamsin has just been really hard. I haven't been able to connect to somebody who is doing this in, is it Alabama, Sherry, I think. So I was just waiting to get an opportunity to really put some pointed questions to her. We worry about competencies. And this is really sad because, right, we worry about competencies and hands-on activity covering certain clinical hours and opting you out of clinical hours, and how to kind of wrap our hands around paying folks during that time. So it's just something I really need some help from Tamsin from, but really excited for the opportunity to do it in nursing because it is so needed for sure. So
Carrie, when you get going, Tim and I will talk about this, we'll publicize, we'll make you guys a focal point to really brag on the partnerships that we've done here in our region.
Oh yeah. It's been really fun to work with Sherry. Like you said, she's top notch for sure.
and to speak to one other thing, regarding Centra too, just because their business is primarily healthcare, but they are looking broader than that. So they're looking at adding on facilities maintenance. That looks like HVAC, plumbing, electrical to start. Plus I've also had other conversations when it comes to EMT, EMTA, paramedic, flight paramedic, phlebotomist, medical assisting. So there's a lot of different things going on at Centra right now, but just because maybe it doesn't fit necessarily the bigger scope of your business doesn't mean that we can't set up other programs. As long as you offer it under your roof, we can do it. So if you own a plumbing company, but you have an IT in the back, IT guy that's taking care of all your computer issues, you can have an IT registered apprenticeship program, even though you're in a plumbing business. So.
Great. Any other questions? Really want to thank Angela and Jerry.
Thank you.
It's certainly, part of our responsibility to come in and, and vote on minutes and vote on other things, but another part is to understand what's going on in the work world. So we take that effort. It's helpful as we try to do our job. So thank you very much. With that, let's go forward on with the director's report. Tracy.
Yeah, I'm going to keep this short. I'm just going to start by inviting you all to Governor Youngkin's workforce bill signing ceremony in this room tomorrow. That's what those chairs are set up for. And you need to be here early, like 12:30, 12:45. You have to be seated by 12:45. But it's tomorrow. He's going to be signing some bills. If you're a company that is hiring people or want the publicity of having one of your pull-ups behind the governor while he's signing, bring those with you. I'm going to bring our Virginia Career Works poster from Keith's office tomorrow. So that is, he's signing, how many bills is he signing here? More than one.
I think it's 3, but you know me on that.
All right, so make sure he has a good pen that works. Unlike the guy over in the beachhead, right? Okay, so I also want to, say that we have Clay here tonight, or today, not tonight. And Clay did a really good job to help us with our annual monitoring this year. Beverly Southers is our monitor from Virginia Works, and she spent a whole day with us with Keith's team, and she interviewed all the career navigators and Chantel and everyone. And And then, she left Clay with a little bit of to do to update some of our policies, which are on the agenda later today. So, but I will say that we had a successful visit, and I want to personally thank those in the room that helped with our audit, and I want to mention them. And that is Kristen, thank you. Kristen, you answered the questions apparently correctly because Beverly was happy after that. And Sharon, I think maybe she interviewed you too. Thank you for that. And then I want to thank Nat, because she talked to you for like an hour and a half. Nat and Alicia from the city, Carrie White, thank you. I think Alicia had to answer hers online, so she got a list of questions and had to write them in paragraph format. And Michael Hertzler, where are you? Where's Michael? He was on call, but she ended up not having to do one more, but he was ready for her and she did, so.
You're welcome.
Want to thank her. All right, and I think that, let me see if there was anything else I was going to. Oh, while Tori's here, I should mention Tori. So, you know, Tim and I are kind of always dividing and conquering. So he's on one of Tori's teams and I'm on the other one, and I always forget which one we're on. But I want to tell us the dates of all the things happening. We've got the Worlds of Opportunity, October
14th and 15th is Worlds of Opportunity Career Expo. And so that is an experiential career expo, mainly targeted towards 8th graders. And the idea behind that expo is to have some kind of engaging activity that showcases what your in-demand job opportunities are, so they can get a sense of what it looks like to be in that occupation. There will be an evening portion or late afternoon portion on the first night for high school students to come with their families to do more of kind of a career fair style situation. Those older students who are ready for work, and also even their parents who maybe need higher.
So for that event, you've got people right here that we can ask this. We're going to need businesses to have booths that are hiring, or not even if you're hiring, but showing the students hands-on activities, thinking about if you were a high school student, what would be interesting. So we need you to sign up for that. But those of you that aren't signed up for that can help us with volunteering. We're going to be at Central Virginia Community College all throughout their campus with different worlds of opportunity, medical, manufacturing, all these things.
Yeah.
And we're gonna need helpers, and you'll get a t-shirt and you'll get to smile and all those things. So more to come on that. And then the second thing is the Educators Academy, and that's bringing guidance counselors and superintendent. So, you know, John Hardy over there is he kind of fits there's a couple different hats. But it's bringing together educators and businesses to connect them to understand what the needs are.
Yeah, and so for this year, we are specifically, each school division is going to be creating a team of principals, superintendents, directors of counseling, those kind of top level leaders within the K-12 system, to do, I guess, our first program for Educator Workforce Academy, and what we're needing from employers, especially with manufacturing, is to open up their facilities to do tours and to show these educators what those jobs actually look like, and talk about, you know, what skills they're needing, what they're expecting from their workforce and so on. And to also host lunch for those educators with the tour. So it's kind of a lunch.
So
tour.
Angela and Sherry and I just went to Aerophone. Have you been over there yet?
Yeah, I was there for their anniversary.
It's nice. isn't it?
Yes, yeah, great break room.
See? I told you.
Great break room.
That's all I'm going to say today. I just want to thank everyone for participating in all the things that we asked you to participate in. Thank you so much.
It's not gonna be any better either, so it's. All right, if there's no questions for Tracy.
Oh, and I should have mentioned too that Alec allowed me to speak to all of his planning district commission, which was very helpful because the the Joint Legislative Audit Review Committee did a study on how well social services and Virginia Career Works and all of us are working together. And so we're trying to strengthen that, and he let me kind of brief them on how we're trying to strengthen that, and we've got a good response, so thank you for that as well.
Thanks for coming and doing that.
And that's on our radar as well, looking again at that partner alignment and how do we make sure that we're hitting all the bases. Again, no when you come in.
I mean, we're actually looking at doing MOUs with the social services folks, and they're gonna help us even, cover some classes that are outside of Leola, but part of our workforce system. So yeah, there's good things happening.
Great, thank you. Going on to the finance report, Sandy.
All right, I'll keep it brief. I mainly just want to go over the comparison of budget to actual. We have had some cost savings, because of staff shortages, of course, we have a vacancy. We've had some other expenses that were less than we expected, when we did our original budget. So it looks like we'll probably have more carryover. I know that was an issue on our original budget. We were thinking, less than 100,000. Looking at it now, since we're 3/4 of the way through the year, we're thinking maybe 150. Fingers crossed, maybe it'll be a little more, because it looks like we're on point for everything else to pan out. So we should have some additional carryovers for next year, which is good news. So, and I think we're pretty much on point to meet our goals for our percentages for youth and.
Now, we're all hanging on to see how much we're gonna get from Leola, because we haven't heard yet. Last year, we were cut over $200,000. So so one of the things we did is when Lori got her, job at Virginia Works as a monitor at the state, she's not allowed to monitor us though. She's monitoring products. But when she did that, we didn't hire a full-time person. We hired Clay, who's handling 3 regions. So Clay is actually monitoring what Lori used to do for us. He's doing for 3 regions and doing a great job at it. So that was a good move that we did that. Now Lori did a lot of other things that now Tim and I are having to do. So it's more work for us, but we're saving money and we needed to do that. So it's working out. Thank you.
So, that's really all I wanted to mention, unless anybody has any questions about anything in particular.
Any questions? Well, the good thing about the finance is that it's now 15, 20 years and they've developed a good pattern, and certainly Sandy and her year in the position has really picked us.
Well, a year as finance director.
Okay, yeah. And really picked it up there, and we'll fully feel confident that, she has everything under control. The biggest thing is to make sure that we spend all the money from 2 years ago first, and then make sure that we have an additional year with those other things. So we've always been appreciative of the fact that we don't have to get anything back 99% of the time, I guess. So, no,
He's been around a while and he's saying we never had to give anybody back, but we make it a point not to do that.
Any other questions? Sandy, again, thank you.
And that leads into Keith's report.
Please report.
Sure. This is in your packet, looks like this. I'm gonna go over the main adult educated worker and youth numbers, and then Chantel's gonna handle the center stuff. So like Tracy had mentioned, so what we do with this report is we do, year-to-date comparisons from last program year and the current program year. And you will see obviously some drops in the number of active enrollments, new enrollments, those kind of things. But to the point that Tracy made, we were cut about $200,000 this year. So I did not fill 2 career navigator positions. We used to have 3 in each program, the 2 different programs. And so we have 2 in each and 4 total. So that obviously with less people, there's less people that can be enrolled. And that does, you come to a challenge of spending the training dollars. Is another thing too, just for the state people to hear when I have people from the state here. And I love Dr. Capps and I love CVCC, and we send a lot of people there. But we have a 40% requirement in the adult program to spend 40% of our funding on training. Right now, virtually everything is covered under G3 or else. It gets very challenging to meet those demands when it's free everywhere else. That's fine. I'm not knocking it, but maybe look at the percentage and let us play around with it a little bit, because it becomes a challenge and we're still held to the same expectation on training expenditures when we can. And here's the thing, we're funder of last resort. If G3 can cover it, I can't pay for it. I have to send them over there to do it. So, and it's fine. It's just, it's just a unique challenge. And that's why we try to focus a lot more on job trainings and things like that, because that's not covered by grants and those kind of things, but it is a unique.
And we do
Challenge.
have other eligible training providers like the Center of Nursing and, Davidson.
Sure, BTI, but again, when, again, I'm not knocking it. It's good, but it also, for people to understand that when we have those expectations, when things change that dramatically, it puts us in a unique spot, but anyway. So you can see the adult and dislocated worker, and then the youth numbers aren't as different as far as enrollments. It's actually only about 5 different from this year to last year, but the number of active are there. And then you can just see those are the services that we provide: work-based learning, the WRs, work readiness training, leadership development, supportive services. And in a minute, when Andy, who is not here, would have done his performance report, I'll report out on some performance numbers, but questions about people we've enrolled, services we're providing, any of that I could answer.
The problem that you're running into is not at a level that we can manage. It's at the state level or the grant level, right?
Yeah.
Is there any way we can make an appeal or do anything to help allow those numbers to be adjusted and still used? What can we do as a board to come alongside you?
Well, it's not just a state issue. Our funds are federal.
Mhm.
So literally there's federal guidelines that determine the 40% now. And as a matter of fact, it almost was 50%, and we had to fight back and say, look, we're having a hard time because in the state of Virginia, we have these G3 and Fast Forward and all these programs that are helping with the cost. So there's less tuition that we need to pay if they go there, and a lot of them do. So it's interesting.
And there were times in the past where you could do like Clay could probably speak to this, he's been around longer than I have, where there's sometimes where you could submit some waivers and exceptions and that kind of thing. And we're not at that point yet, but it is just something to consider. And realize we'll still enroll people and put them in CVCC, and we'll help with supportive services and those kind of things. But when there's that much of it that's covered, it does become a unique challenge, but.
Anything about workforce centers, stats?
Yep, so Chantel's gonna go over that.
Oh, okay.
Yep, that's the next page, if you flip it.
Hello, everybody. Alrighty, so if you take a look at the next page, where you have the workforce center stats, you'll see that it did increase traffic wise about 1,000 more for total visits at the center. I'm assuming that's due to the lift of a lot of the COVID restrictions, and we also had a lot of company closures that resulted into layoffs, so a lot of people were coming in for unemployment assistance. So I'm assuming that's just me putting two and two together, that's probably where that increase came from. As far as our online orientations, it's not that much of a difference they're almost kind of equal. And then into the bottom graph there, it's broken out into counties, the total visits. So you can see Lynchburg had a bit of an increase, and that's again probably due to those company closures. But yeah, that's it. Any questions?
So the important one that I always look at is the orientations, just because with the numbers of coming into the center, with a lot of people having to show their IDs or their unemployment, especially like some of those temporary unemployed people at Sodexo when Liberty had their break over the Christmas break, and they were all coming into the center because they couldn't get onto sort of the state system and all of that. But when you look at the orientations, these are people that have looked at our video on our website or, come into the center because they were referred to us. And then they are interested in what we can provide as far as training and wraparound services on our Title I side, the WIOA side.
And more of the individualized stuff, and also partners with DARS and ACE.
Right, that's our combined referral. I mean, that name orientation's a little misleading. We call it orientation, sometimes we call it initial assessment, but what it is, that is the entry point into the Virginia CareerWorks network of service providers. It is the referral, what we consider kind of our referral portal.
Any questions?
Oh, I'm sorry, I did forget the next page there. It was hidden from me. This is from the services that's provided by Jeff Bennett over at LSI. This is the numbers of his workshop participations for this program year that we're currently in up till March. So you can kind of see how he's doing. Over there, he's at 272 career workshop participants, and you can see those listed in the graph below that. And the other workshops that he offers outside of those main career ones, he's at 458. So he's been a busy man.
Yes, he
Very busy.
A lot of it is Parkview, but some of it is at the center as well. And
Yeah,
he's-
and different counties, and works with the city, with their review program. He goes out to Bedford and works with Tanford,
And
and out
and
there.
we're learning from the localities how important Jeff is, especially for Lynchburg and Bedford, and we're trying to help Appomattox, Amherst, and Campbell to also see how we can have an agreement and do more in their localities with what Jeff services are providing.
Did we resolve the issue? I know that there was some financial circumstances where.
Pending.
Not yet. So Tracy's been working really hard. I think we have a commitment from 2 of the 5 DSSs to actually contribute like 6,000 in each
So I
county.
haven't told the board all of this, but
Yeah.
I've asked, all 5 or, how many localities do we have?
5 will count.
5 if you count Lynchburg. So all of them, asked them to help provide some of the services that Jeff's doing. And the reason is that Jeff is serving the people with the most barriers. And they're not always the ones that are enrolled with us yet. So this is a needed thing because he's helping people with the most barriers to maybe get their first job, to get their first resume, to understand how to make a budget and how to survive. And so, he's at risk because of our tight, we keep getting squeezed and with our staff. So I've asked the localities to kind of help if they have some social services, funds to boost us starting in July. And Lynchburg and Bedford are stepping up. And I think that, I might be able to get it from Campbell as well. So we're holding out and seeing if we can get all 5 localities on board this month.
Yeah, the bottom line is when we redid and this is assuming level funding. So if we get cut again from the state level, it's a whole different conversation. But
Right.
assuming level funding, we need to make up about 30 grand to keep Jeff rolling. He's been working with us he's worked for me for 12 years, but,
No, this
for
is
many years under.
localities that have funds because it's outside of the Delaware, but not state.
And I don't know the individual personally, but I've heard a lot of great things, and certainly it would be a loss to the community if we aren't able to come up with the money, so I appreciate
Big
that.
loss, big loss, big loss. All right, and with that, we have some policies.
All right, so thank you very much. Moving on of some policies that's necessary. Clay.
Clay's done all the hard work for us, guys. He's gonna summarize in 1 sentence for each one.
Great policy, great policy.
Just say.
Vote yes.
Maybe 2 sentences. for each one.
Okay, the first policy I wanted to go over with you real quick is the assessment policy. And like Tracy had mentioned, these are all policies that the last monitor when they came out felt that we need to have in play. It's not that we weren't doing these things, we just didn't have it any kind of formal policy in place.
So wait, in our packet, does it start with 111? Or do I?
110.
Oh, I just need to turn that, sorry. Okay, now I'm good. Ready to go.
Okay. First one I'm looking at is the assessment policy, and this policy basically explains exactly what assessments we're gonna, that our contractor can use to assess an individual. It talks a little bit about when that person needs to be assessed, to receive an assessment, and also what the process is to follow. This next policy that we have in play is.
Do we want to do them individually or? Let's look at
Want to do it one at a time?
Yeah, one at a time.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there any questions on our assessment
10
policy?
seconds.
Okay.
Alec, well,
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so is this a policy that was in place already and we said to edit it or it's new?
This one here, I don't think was in place at the time.
So this is a new policy
It's a new policy,
and it was required from our audit,
right?
but it's also a good idea.
All right, so any questions, comments, thoughts in regards to this particular policy? All right, entertain a motion to accept.
No motion.
Okay, thank you. And
Mike,
Mike?
Mike H.
And a second. Okay, Laura. All right.
Laura H.
Probably moving a second that we accept this policy.
The next policy is the measurable skill game.
Yeah, go again.
I'm sorry, say again.
Oh,
Did you?
we need to take the vote. Did we already? We
We
got
had a motion, we had a second, but we never.
Yeah, I'm in the process.
Oh.
Yeah, no, it's still quite.
Yes, thank you. All right, if there are no additional comments or questions, ready to vote, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
And anyone against, nay? All right, ayes have it, the policy has been separate. All right, Clay, continue.
Okay, the next policy is the measurable skill gain. This policy is modeled off the state policy, almost verbatim. It covers from A to Z, everything you need to know about the measurable skill gain, from what gains adults can receive and dislocated workers, also what youth can receive, how the gain is put into the MIS system, and also how it affects performance.
And is that new or revised?
That's the new one.
It's what?
New.
New, okay.
Take a second to read this one in. All right, so this one again is measurable skills gains, a new one to our policies. Any discussions, questions, comments? Hearing none, we're ready for you to entertain a motion to accept. So moved. Okay, thank you, John. You have a second? Scott?
Scott F.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? Ready for the vote? All in favor? Aye. Aye. And I'll wait for the,
Okay, next policy.
and anyone, nay, I was waiting to see if I was giving you a response. No, nay, so the vote is on. Thank you. Everybody clear?
Okay, the next policy is the 5% lower income exception. Under the WIOA Act, it allows that 5% of the youth that we serve each year can be actually over the income guidelines. And that's what this policy here is. For that to go into effect, though, they have to meet certain barriers. And that's what this policy is doing here, is identifying what the barriers are. And it's also identifying that it's going to be the board's responsibility to track it, to make sure that we don't go over 5% each year.
Now, Keith, we generally, all of our youth are usually.
Yeah, I don't ever really use it. This was actually this was kind of part of another policy where it was combined with the 5% low income and the 5% needing additional
But
services.
should this be helpful that we could have that rare time that we would have somebody that's not necessarily low income, but they have one of these barriers? Would that be helpful?
Sure, it's again, 5%, it's, it's a couple of kids
Yeah.
here and there, but yeah, I mean, it's always been there. It's, we just don't
made it
utilize
into
it
a
a whole lot.
policy. Okay.
All right, any questions, comments? This is a new policy, it's sort of broken out from others. That were-
Yeah, the 5% is in a separate policy. It's listed out, but it's not its own separate standard.
Correct. It's actually listed in the eligibility section.
Make a motion.
Okay, thank you, David. Go a second.
A second.
Okay, all right.
David S. and Jason S.
All right, there's no discussion, questions? Hearing none, ready for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Anyone against, nay? All right, I have it. Policy accepted. Let's see, continue on.
Okay, the next policy. Next policy I have is the individual employment plan / individual service strategy policy. Under the adult dislocated worker programs, they call it an individual employment plan. It's basically the plan that we're following when we're serving this individual on the program. And then the individual service strategy is, for some reason, they link that to the youth program. And it's the same thing. Both of them are plans that's going to help us work with the participant and give them a good understanding of what exactly it's going to take to get them back into the workforce. And so what this policy does, it actually explains what an IEP and a ISS is. Also, it talks a little bit about what's required to go into an IEP and an ISS. And also talks a little bit about the review process, where they'll be reviewed about every 90 days, just to make sure they're staying on track. And of course, then if any major changes occur, then we'll go in and revise the IEP to reflect those changes.
So am I assuming that this information somewhere as well.
Yeah, it's just what, we've always followed the guidance that is created, but it's never been.
Any other questions? Right here, none, we are ready for a motion. All in favor? I'll be sure, motion first. Thank you. A motion, okay, thank you.
I'll
So
second.
Thank you, Gary. All right. Gary Campbell. There's no conversation, questions? And I'm ready for the vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? Nay? Ayes have it. Motion carried. This last one.
And the last one is just for you, Gary, because you just love these electronic meetings policies. But now the state has changed it several times. And that's why we kept bringing it to you, but now they've combined them all.
Okay, this last policy, as Tracy, it's said, this is, actually an existing policy. And, what we had to do was revise it. Everything that Lori had put into the original is in this policy, but they weren't really happy with the format of the policy and they wanted that changed. And they also wanted to make sure that we added the Virginia code section to each section of the policy, and that's been done as well. Again, this mirrors the state policy pretty much completely.
It basically says we can have one fully electronic meeting per year for our board because we meet quarterly. And when somebody is going to be virtual, they need to let me know and give me a reason, which they did today.
There's no questions, comments, thoughts? And now anything motion to second? So moved. Thank you, John. Second? Second. John, thank you.
John Ready, John on.
Any final questions, comments? Ready for the vote? All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, anyone against? Nay? I have it, and all of the minutes, all of the policies have been approved. Thank you all very much. Anything else? Right,
Nope, that's it.
well, appreciate it. All right, moving on. Committee reports. I'm not sure if they are necessarily committee reports from everyone, but we'll check it out. So, Sadie, the area, anything on you?
So we've had a lot of really exciting job fairs throughout the year. I think we've had at least 15, but we have a lot more coming up. So the next one in line, I'm sorry.
We probably need to have a meeting at some point.
Yeah, we do need to have another meeting, but I've got some really exciting stuff that's coming up. So Beacon of Hope is the next one that's coming up on April 18th. You guys haven't participated in that, here's your chance to get with them and get signed up for it. Liberty High School is having a reverse career fair on April 24th. I've never been to a high school reverse career fair, so I'm kind of excited to see how that goes. The Welding Wars is April 26th at CVCC. You guys have never participated in that event. It's awesome. You get to compete, on a collegiate level, high school level. It's a professional level. Yeah, it's fun for everybody and it brings awareness to welders. CVCC is having their spring fair on May the 1st. So John's here if you're interested in attending that. Lynchburg City Schools is, they're actually having a CTE fundraiser on May the 18th. Robbie had sent something out this week on it. Campbell County is having their signing day on May 23rd. It's always a good event. And the last thing, Tori's already talked about the WOO. So the last thing I wanted to add is Department of Labor is actually having their first ever nationwide youth apprenticeship week, which is May the 5th through the 11th. So it's the first time they're doing it. Basically, they have different days structured. I really liked their daily themes. So one day they have parents and guardians, basically to talk about, the importance of registered apprenticeship. The next day, they're just basically bringing awareness to it. The next day, it's about expanding youth apprenticeship, which Sherry has done a fantastic job here. And it's also just basically talking about opportunities for the underserved population. And Thursday is National Youth Apprenticeship Signing Day. So I wanted to talk to you, Sherry, about what we could do with our apprentices, the youth that we have to actually make it like an official day with them.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that would be pretty neat, especially because we're all throughout the state of Virginia. And then Friday is basically Federal Partner Day, Call into Action. So it's a really exciting event. I'm glad that they're finally doing it and definitely want to try to support it.
The USDOL, just so everybody knows, is kind of collecting all of the events and is asking everybody to, even if your event isn't open to the public, at least to let people know that this is happening. Just again, for that awareness piece. So we've already registered a couple of events. I think the one that's coming to mind is a big one that they are having up in Spotsylvania County. So again, very exciting, and we encourage anybody who's got something like that to make sure you register it.
So who would she send it to?
It's actually online. You can go online and
Go
it's
online and
free.
register.
I even thought about you, Laura, trying to register your event.
That could be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, any questions for Sierra? Great job, thank you. All right, moving on to the E and I. Kristen.
Yes, so we met in April 20th and we met virtually. We welcome a new committee member, Sharon Dunham from Virginia Works. So she's doing great with us. So we have a guest speaker from the Latinos in Virginia Empowerment Center, and he was talking to us about some of the challenges of the victim of violence and some of the services that they offer, and some examples about partnerships with CareerWorks with this individual needed to seek for employment. We are meeting next on May 15th, and our guest speaker will be Sean Hunter, CEO and president of Lynchburg Peacemaker, and Sharon was very helpful and nice to help us to get that speaker. We continue working together in our strategies and our efforts for outreach. Couple of activities happening in our community. On May the 4th is the 7th annual International Festival. It's sponsored by the city of Lynchburg. It will be from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. I think that it will be a parade of nations, food, good music and stuff like
What's the
that.
date?
It's May the 4th from 11 to
May
3
the
p.m.
4th be with you.
Also, there's like a Latinx Health Summit, Saturday, April 20th, and it's at, from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. at Miller Park, sponsored by, Road to Recovery. And it's a resource fair related to substance use disorder, mental health, language, and any of related services like that. And lastly, we have a Black Health Summit at the Jubilee Center on April 27th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. They have a great speakers, and they will have health screenings, music, food, and giveaways. Thank you.
So the question from Carrie White saying which question?
I think she was asking about the May 4th event.
Yeah, it will be at Miller Park from it will be at Miller Park from City Stadium from 11 a.m.
I just
to
wanted
2
to City Stadium. but-
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah.
City Stadium. Would you
11.
want- Would you want Carrie to have a booth there with Centra?
We need to connect with the city of Lynchburg is sponsoring.
City of Lynchburg?
Yeah.
All right, City of Lynchburg is sponsoring. Good. There's a lot going on, guys. So-
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a lot.
Yeah.
Certainly, we are planning on being there, so we'll be there with a booth, so thank you. All right, so any questions for Chris in regards to the DE and I?
Kristen is doing great.
Great, thank you. Moving on. Andy's not with us. Did anyone was any?
Yeah, so Andy's not here, but there is performance reports from the second quarter for WIO programs in your packet. Look like this. If there's questions, I'd be happy to answer. If it's blue and green, it's great. If it's red, it's a concern. But just to remind people on the measurable skill gains, that's the only one that's actually measured in real time. So as people go through different trainings and stuff, they'll get measurable skill gains. So if that's low throughout the year, it's not really a concern. If it is at the end, then that's a problem. But as we go through, it's often low because people just haven't, finished that semester yet or gotten that credential, so we haven't put it in the system yet. And the other one that's red on there is the dislocated worker second quarter after exit. Again, you can see the date range all the way to the right. That's when these people exited the program. So that measure is actually from people who exited the program July of 2022 through December of 2022. And oftentimes dislocated workers, you'll notice in the first quarter, it was like 50% and then 60%. There might be 2 or 3 people that exited during that quarter. And so if you got one person who didn't it wasn't working second quarter, you're gonna fail that measure. It's not an excuse, it's just the reality of it. Oftentimes with GWs, for our area especially, the numbers are really low. We do the best, my staff do an amazing job of trying to connect them, and you'll see tons of these are above 100%, meaning we, blew the measure out of the water, but, that's one that we always kind of continue to work on, but I'd be happy to answer any questions if people are confused or have questions about
We
this.
have a meeting that Keith and we all went through all of these. Tim, did you have anything to add? Because he asked you to say something, didn't he?
No, we just briefly looked at the businesses that we've served over the last quarter.
Yeah, and you let everybody know about our existing business program and how.
Sure, yes. So getting back to Keith's point about the 40% training requirement, one thing that actually counts toward that requirement is when we cover training that employers are doing of their existing workers. If there's a company that is doing some professional development with their workers, they're putting them through some type of training or upskilling, and we cover it, then that counts toward our 40%. And I think last meeting or maybe 2 meetings ago showed you the list of 5 employers that we served with existing worker training funds. I'm actually going to put that up on the screen for everybody to see, and I'll share it here so the ones online can see it as well. This is the list of the businesses that we have served so far in PY23. Again, PY23 because that's how we call our years here. So we've actually spent, as of right now, we've committed $27,000 to this program so far. Now, I want to point out one that got added to the list that you didn't see the last time, and that's GLAD. We got a request from GLAD Manufacturing in Amherst County to put 16 people there through a Microsoft Excel level 1 and level 2 training that they needed because of some changes that are happening up there in the manufacturing process, that their workers needed specifically Microsoft Excel training to be able to complete that training. It's level 2 and level 3 training that they're doing through CVCC. And so the rule is with this existing worker training, the company can get a portion of their training costs that they incurred reimbursed to them, depending on the size of the workforce. So the larger you are, the less money you can get. GLAD, because they have, I think, over 300 people working up there in Amherst, they are only eligible for a 50% reimbursement. And so they're going to get hopefully $5,500 to help cover that training. I've got CloudFit highlighted in yellow here. The reason they're highlighted in yellow is because they requested the funds, but they have not yet turned in the paperwork for us to go through and do the requisition with Sandy for them to be reimbursed. GLAD should actually be in yellow as well. I didn't have them highlighted. They haven't finished the process yet either. But BossTech, VMS Direct, Alta Vista Instruments and Controls, and AMTI, they all received checks from your funds, from the board, to cover a portion of their training costs. So we're happy that this is a way that we can serve employers with the WIOLA funds that we get.
You guys, it's tremendous. And when I look at the 14 other workforce boards, I think we are a shining example of how we utilize all of our existing worker funds. And Tim has a way of taking what I think is complicated WIOLA paperwork for this and making it as simple as he can for the businesses to sign off. He fills in for them, what he can, so to make it easy for them. And it's because he makes it that easy that we have a good result here. So thank you, Tim.
Okay, great, thank you. So, now you said on your sheet here, green is pretty evident.
Green's, yeah.
Red is pretty evident. Could you explain what the blue is?
Yeah, so the blue, like, basically, if you hit about 75% on a measure, you're good, you've met it. If you go above 100, you really hit it out of the park. So we're safe on the blues. The reds would be something that the state would go, okay, we gotta look at what's going on.
State just asks what's going on, and then when we explain that we have some time and the next quarter it might be better, they see this across all the boards. So this is normal.
All right, any other questions? And finance, Ron's not here, he's probably.
Ron,
He's been CPA stuff, right?
that we received, and Mike Hertzler's on the finance committee, and Ron's comment was what, Mike?
He didn't copy me on that one.
His comment was, we used to have a lot more carryover funds, didn't we? And yeah, so there was a time when we had a lot more carryover funds because we can carry it over for a second year. And it's getting smaller and smaller because of our cuts, but we are still, Sandy says we're good, so we're good.
And the important thing about carryover, said, we mentioned before, is the fact that a lot of times we don't get funds until October. It's a July to October timeframe that we have to sometimes utilize those carryover funds. So that's why it's so important.
And that's why we are glad we are in the CDPDC because they can help with that if we get into a situation where we have to wait for the money.
Great. So with that, there have been no meetings of the executive committee. So there's no report there. Is there anything else that needs to come to this board? Well, we want to thank everybody for your time. Is Cap still here?
Yes.
Hit it right on the time. 4:30, so hearing no additions, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I do have an ask from the Alliance to just take your chair and line it up accordingly. So that we can
Behind
be
those
even,
tubes?
yeah, that's fine. So we can be even more prepared.
Thank you for saying that. That's good.
Yeah, so yeah, remind of all the things that are going on. So with that, motion? A motion. Okay, thank you.
Who makes the motion?
Jason made the motion. Okay. So, for the Christian, okay, so all the babies.
Kristen and Jason?
Yeah, the lead.
Okay, you see me, Jason.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Again, thank you, Sherry. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.